Hi, I'm Siege from the Puma podcast team. If you like listening to this show and others created by our team, you can help us keep making them through our Puma Patak tip jar. Our goal is to get 100 of you, our friends, to make a contribution and show your support for the journalism and storytelling that we do. We're happy to keep making shows that you can listen to for free, but making them isn't free, so we appreciate any support you send our way. All you need to do is to go to pumapodcast.com where you'll find a link to the Pumapatak tip jar.
Hi, I'm Frank Coluna Puma Podcast. You're listening to Teka Teka News, balitang thinking, hindi breaking. In this episode,
So I arrive at the airport at around 9 a.m. and then I get settled at gate 134B, which is the designated gate for my flight. That's when I heard some of the ground staff. They said na walang nakakalapag or nakakaalis ng in the airport, in the terminal, I mean, 1 to 4. So you will notice din naman na wala ka makikitang mga announcement dun sa screen for gate na last call or for boarding time na ganyan. Wala lahat.
we talk about the air traffic system failure at NAIA that ruined New Year's Day for thousands of travelers.
Around 11 a.m., I heard the first public service announcement na there's some technical issue in the power outage of the air traffic, so they cannot locate on the radar kung ano na yung mga nangyari ng mga flights. After 2 hours, around 1 p.m., that was a time na Cebu Pacific sent an email as well as a text message informing me na canceled na yung flight. So they are offering to either rebook, refund.
That was Nash Nashon. He works in Makati City but wanted to go home to Legazpi to be with his family for the holidays. Nash was just one of tens of thousands of travelers affected by the collapse of the airport's air traffic management system. More than 300 flights were cancelled that night, both domestic and international. Airline staff themselves didn't know what to tell angry passengers. Information was coming in drips and drabs. In short, it was utter chaos.
People keep on coming in from the check-in counters going to the passenger holding area. So doon na nagkumpulan lahat ng mga tao. I saw a lot of people na nakaupo na sa side and medyo na sila, irritable. I opted to refund my flight. Around 3 p.m., I decided to go to BTEX to take the bus na lang. So nag-land trip ako. I left BTEX 5 p.m. and then I arrived the following day, 6 a.m. dito sa Legazpi. So bali, 13 hours na biyahe compared to 1 hour and a half max kung sa plane.
Nash was one of the luckier ones. For most of the New Year's weekend, the OFWs were stuck here and couldn't return to their jobs abroad. Filipinos who went home to their provinces also couldn't get back to Manila in time for work. Countless others were stuck overseas or at tourist spots and had to fork out their own money to pay for hotel and food. Like Rico J., an analyst based in San Diego. He says he and his family ended up stranded in Boracay and had to miss a few reunions back home.
I guess a blessing is we're here in Boracay stuck, so we're stuck in paradise pretty much. But yeah, it incurs additional expenses sa amin to stay another 2 days, which was an unplanned expense, but we have no other choice. And there's other people there. You can see by the way they're communicating on the phone, looking worried and frustrated of not being able to get any answers or get any sooner flight to leave the island.
You could see it on flight tracking websites. On one of the busiest days of the year, the country's airspace was literally empty. According to the Manila International Airport Authority, over 360 flights had either been cancelled, diverted to other airports, or delayed by the evening of January 1st. That's about 65,000 travelers affected. We're pausing for a quick break now. When we return, we listen in as officials try to explain what went wrong. So now the big question, who's accountable? It's the agency known as the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, which operates the country's air traffic control system. But CAAP dodged interview requests from reporters for most of the weekend until Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista apologized at the New Year's Day press conference.
The primary cause identified was a problem with the power supply and the degraded and interrupted power supply, which had no link to the commercial power and had to be connected to the latter manually. The secondary problem was the power surge due to the power outage, which affected the equipment.
So they were hit by a power outage. But wait, shouldn't critical systems like air traffic control have a backup?
Meron itong dalawang UPS by design.
UPS stands for Uninterruptible Power Supply, and that was CAAP Director General Manuel Tamayo in the same press conference.
Ang design nito, just in case we have a power failure or any of the UPS fail safe, aandar yung isa. So ang nangyari, one of the UPS failed. Nung nag-fail yung UPS, ayaw na pumasok yung commercial power or the standby power. So dapat nga, walang problema, UPS nga. But for one reason or another, the other UPS did not come online. So troubleshooting had to be done.
In short, first the system failed, and then their backup failed too. Captain Edgardo Diaz, the CAAP's Deputy Director General for Operations, now says the agency is looking into the possibility of sabotage and human error in its investigation. Here he is in an interview on One News The Big Story.
This is not usual. The usual is that we have all of our equipment working. But in this particular case, there was a power source problem causing all our communication, navigation, and radar system going offline. So we have to apply contingency measures. This is what I can tell you. Our air traffic controllers are prepared to handle this kind of situation. As a matter of fact, we do have redundancy. You see, we have two UPS, and the system is that once UPS fails, the other UPS should be able to take over. But in this case, that did not happen, and that is now the subject of investigation.
Senators have already called for an investigation into the fiasco. House lawmakers are also questioning the timing of it all, since it came after the DOTR said it intends to look into privatizing NAIA. But before anything can happen, Secretary Bautista says the government needs to study the proposal first. Here he is over One News The Big Story.
We'll do a feasibility study of having this system. It has to be approved by NEDA because it will cost more than 2.5 billion pesos. We don't need to replace this system immediately. This system is working. It's in its midlife. What we need is a new backup system because there's no backup for the whole system.
To date, a lot of big questions remain. If they knew the system was outdated, how could the CAAP not have prepared for the worst? And though operations have resumed, the damage had a domino effect on succeeding flights. Not to mention the reputational damage. The worry is this could bring back the dubious title of the world's worst airport. But when President Bongbong Marcos left for his state visit to China on January 3, he made no mention of the fiasco in his departure speech. And so we leave you with a snippet of the President's New Year message instead.
Isa-isahin natin. Ano po ang personal New Year's resolution ninyo?
Matulog ng mas mahabang oras. Paabutin ng 8 hours yung tulog. Huwag lang 5 hours.
Halos ganun din kagaya ng kiinday. Talagang kailangan na matuto ko na magpahinga. On an even more personal level, I would like to spend more time with my family. Hindi na kami nagkikita eh. Namimiss ko na sila.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Franco Luna. This episode was edited by Nina Toralba and produced by Kat Ventura. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or two. And of course, don't forget to follow Teka Teka and Puma Podcast wherever you listen. At para sa mga mahilig manood sa YouTube, Puma Podcast na rin po kami doon. Just search Puma Podcast and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.